Hello guys, today is the first day Britain has had outside the EU for I believe 47 years. Yesterday, at 11 o'clock in the evening, Britain officially left the EU. Nigel Farage gave a speech about it in London to those celebrating, and Britain is now trying to find out what it's like to be outside a large political bloc. Many people were unhappy about Britain being in the EU, and they wanted Brexit for many years. Now we are out the EU, and now the EU will, in the long term, no longer have a say on how we spend our own money in the long term, and they cannot stop us spending more money on hospitals if we want. One of the problems with the EU is that we wanted to spend a lot of money on hospitals, but they said no. You must waste lots of money on making museums look better and building all sorts of fancy buildings which look good for cultural reasons but would not actually save the lives of people in any way. Many people felt, why are we wasting our money on this? One of the terms and conditions of being in the EU was that the EU decided how we spent over £300 million a week, of our own money. Officially, we had to allocate £350 million to an EU budget, of which they would give us some of that money back, providing we spent it on things in Britain that they agreed with. Improving the healthcare system in this country was something they did not approve of. They did not approve us using that money for that purpose. So you would often see, for example, over here, various projects like renovating museums and things like that, where there would be a sign which would say that this building had been improved or developed with the use of EU money or EU funds. It hadn't. It had been created or improved using British taxpayers' money. Because as we gave more money, we gave lots of money to the EU, and never got any money back. Okay, they gave us money back to spend on these things, but we paid more than we ever got back. It was realistically our money. So, while it would often say EU money was spent on these things, it wasn't really. It was really British money. And if you said to most people, which would you rather have? A nicer looking museum or a hospital? Because of the healthcare system over here being provided by the government, and because many people feel that perhaps the healthcare system isn't as good as it could be, they would rather more money was spent on hospitals and healthcare. If the public wanted to spend more money on museums, that's up to them. That'd be up to the government of the day. But saying to a country, you must spend money on museums, when, even if you'd rather spend the money on a hospital, is to me just plain wrong. It's also, in my opinion, downright evil. Especially as these decisions are made by people who don't even live here and will never live here. But that is the way the EU works. The EU tells its citizens how it can spend its own money in its own country, and that it cannot use money that they've allocated to save lives. Bizarre but true. That nonsense will now end. Unfortunately, we've had to pay a divorce bill to leave them. But at some point that will end. And then we can spend taxpayers' money in this country however we wish. Today is the first day we are officially free of the EU. In the future, maybe the EU may change, they may change their rules and their values, and maybe one day we will rejoin if it is much more democratic and much more humanitarian than it has been. But saying to people, I'm very sorry, you're going to have to die 6 months early because we cannot afford to give you life-saving medicine, because an unelected parliament says we've got to spend the money instead on making a museum look a bit prettier. To me, it's just downright evil. And one of the reasons why many people voted to leave the EU. Now, if we do not like the decisions in the future made by our politicians, we can sack them, we can vote them out, and vote in other politicians. While we were in the EU, we could not remove those politicians. Even if our own politicians said some rules were downright stupid, they couldn't do anything about it because we were in the EU. Now we're out of the EU. If we don't like the politicians, if we don't even like the agreements we have with the EU, we can now sack our politicians and replace them with other politicians in elections. Before, it wouldn't matter what Prime Minister we chose. If the EU had a rule, apart from leaving the EU, which nobody thought would happen, we just had to suck it up and accept it. Now we have sovereignty again. The public can decide who their masters are and what rules we have, and if we don't like something, we can simply threaten to sack the politicians, or actually sack them by voting them out. So today was the first day of freedom for many people for a long time. But it doesn't feel like that. Because although we have officially left the EU, unofficially, we're still in it. Unofficially. We have chosen voluntarily, despite being out now, to follow EU rules and customs for several more months until the end of the year, during what is known as a transition period, so that it doesn't disrupt businesses and organisations too much. But at the end of the year, the idea is we will have really left. Officially, we've left now. And for example, if for some reason Boris Johnson was overthrown, and the government was overthrown, we could then say to the EU, we're not following any of your rules at all, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, there is. I mean, they could punish us in some way by refusing to provide products to us, or things like that. But because we're now out of the EU, we have the right to do that if we want to. Whereas before, when we were in the EU, officially we could not officially do that. Whereas now, officially we can do it. And Boris and others know that. So officially we're free, but unofficially we're not yet. But many people, as I said, campaigned for Brexit because they felt it was wrong that foreigners who don't live here and will never live here were telling us how to spend our own money at the cost of other people's lives, in some cases, and interfering in our way of life. And finally, and sometimes maybe the EU may have also not been entirely to blame for things. Sometimes our British politicians may have created a law or something and then blame the EU for it, and they could hide behind the EU if they wanted to. Now our politicians cannot hide behind the EU anymore, because they can no longer say, well, we have to do this because of the EU, even if it's not completely true, because people would say, well, we're not in the EU anymore. Okay? So, this is just an update for fans of politics, guys. This is the first day outside the EU for a very long time. Okay? And I'm going to say goodbye now. So, thanks for watching, guys. Bye!